What's it, YouTube? Day of Zephyr Games, bringing you, as you can see before you, an updated Ancient Gear deck. Now, in Legendary Duelist Ancient Millennium, Ancient Gear's got some support in the form of a brand new Ancient Gear fusion monster, fusion spell, sorry, a brand new Ancient Gear fusion monster, and of course a brand new main deck monster, which can help search you out the fusion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the deck profile, show you off the ratios, and then explain what we've got, why we've got it, and how the deck now operates. So, starting off the profile, because we're going with the fusion, we now play 2 Reactor Dragon as opposed to 3. You can play this up at 3 if you wish to. The reason I play this at 2 is because we are more focused on getting into the fusion. We kind of want to be able to balance out our Ancient Gear Golems and Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pounds. To keep the balance nice and you know, free-flowing, we're playing 2 Ancient Gear Golem and 1 Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound. You can bump these up in any ratios you wish. If you want to go solely focused on the fusions, bump up to 2 or 3 or 2 or 3. So that's kind of your ratio there of big monsters, and then put in like trading and stuff like that. I still really like Reactor Dragon, which is why I've tried this ratio out and it kind of works for me in my personal playstyle. When then play Triple Wyvern, this is your strats of the deck, searches you absolutely everything you need spell and track card wise, and then can kind of get you into the rest of your monsters there. You can of course search out the new fusion for that, but the new fusion we kind of want to search off using the brand new card, and that is Ancient Gear Frame. So Ancient Gear Frame, you discard a card and then you search one spell or trap that specifically lists Ancient Gear Golem, or you get to search out Ancient Gear Golem. When it's destroyed by your opponent's card effect, you get to special summon out up to 3 Ancient Gear Golems or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pounds from your hand. So if you want to go more focused on that build, you play 3 of him, and then you'll bump up your Ancient Gears. But I feel that it could be too much of a clog doing it that way. Again, comes down to personal preference on that choice. We then play triple Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. This, of course, is your main monster fusion. Burning your opponent for 600 and then being able to fusion summon 1 Ancient Gear fusion monster from your extra deck is very cool and powerful, using monsters from your hand or field. So if you use Wyvern's effect and then get Hound on board as well, Hound can then fuse at least 3. And why he can fuse at least 3 is because we play 2 gold gadget and 1 box. Now you can play box at 2 if you want. So the idea is you add box off of Wyvern. Wyvern would then search you out the box would then search you out your gold gadget. If you want to play sorry, not gold gadget, ancient gadget. If you do want to play like your gold and silver gadgets and the machine dupe kind of play, you can do. Again, that comes down to personal preference and choice. In this build, I've opted to not go for it because I do want to focus on getting the fusions out while still playing the Ancient Gear of getting the big beaters out of my deck with the spells and traps. I've tried to maintain a budget on this one as well, but because the new fusion spell is about 20 quid on pre-release or building up to the set out, it really then does come down to what you want to put in. So I've put in double Ogre and double Veiler. Now Veiler is probably the leading hand trap at this moment in time in this upcoming format because it does a bit more to Electromite than Ash does, especially with it being what looks like a pendulum format after YCS Atlanta. Ogre again does more than Ash in the Electromite kind of hit as well, so you can bump these up to 3s, or if you want to go on more of a budget you could take both the Ghost Ogres out and bump the Ashes up to 3 just to kind of keep what you want there and to keep you on a budget, so it does give you the options to play around with. So that's it for the monster lineup. Now on to the spells. Of course with the spells we play triple Gear Town. Obviously the field spell is incredibly important in this deck. It gets your combos going along with triple Ancient Gear Catapult. Now the biggest issue is there's no real way of effectively searching this, so you'd Wyvern it and search it, but then you have to have no monsters on the board to activate it, so that you have to then be able to get rid of Wyvern to activate and resolve this. If you want to go more focused on the Ancient Gear Town, you would play more Terraformers. I only play 1 at this moment in time. Ideally, the shameful thing is if you don't open up with these 2 on their own, you kind of have a bit more trouble getting going because your Wyvern would then of course search this off, but then you can't pop that, and it kind of does slow you down a little bit, which is why the fusion helps, but it isn't as busted as it probably could have been. We then play 2 Ancient Gear Fortress. Now you can play 3 Ancient Gear Fortress because it does give your monsters that protection when they're on the board. And it can be very, very helpful to unclog your hand should they get destroyed. Now your opponents are very rarely going to be destroying, or the smart opponents will very rarely destroy your gear town and your fortress. They're going to bounce them or banish them so they don't get their effects, which is why catapult is even more important. Next up we play double power bond and 1 overload fusion. Now I like this ratio here because overload fusion is really, really good as like a top deck late game, and power bond is very, very good for your early game. Now what I do have to mention with power bond is it does actually affect Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. Now the way that it affects Ancient Gear Giant, so Ancient Gear Giant is unaffected by spell and trap card effects, but that's while it's on the field and in active play, whereas Power Bond gives its attack boost as part of its summoning condition, so it technically gets summoned with 9k. You basically just rub out the 4.5 at the bottom and put 9k, which is why it kind of then gets around the whole Power Bond thing, because it doesn't kick in when it's on the board. It's not like a second activated effect. It happens all in one as the summon, so that can actually win you games as just one-off done. Which can obviously combo off very, very nicely instead of the Ancient Gear Fusion. On top of that, of the Overload, should your board get nuked or changed or anything like that, a top deck of an Overload Fusion can actually win you the game and can be very, very powerful late game. Next up now, this is kind of either ors. So I've only got the 1 Ancient Gear Fusion, but if you get a second Ancient Gear Fusion, I would play it instead of Soul Charge or one of the other one-offs that we play. But the Ancient Gear Fusion could have been more busted. It's a bit of a shame that it's not like a Shadow Fusion. But it's fusion summon 1 Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If you use Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound, you control as fusion materials. You can also use monsters from your deck as well. So the issue with this is obviously you need to have an Ancient Gear Golem and an Ancient Gear Ultimate Pound on board, or either or, to kind of activate Resolve and get the most out of this card. If it was something like, if you're using Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Ultimate Pound, even if it's from the hand or banished or anything like that, it would have worked really, really nicely. Even then, it could have also said banish from your graveyard as well, just to kind of give the Ancient Gears a bit more freedom. Regardless, I love the artwork on it. I think it looks really, really cool. I think the green and the yellow with the black kind of works nice with the Ancient Gear art type. So it gives you the options to kind of play around with. We'll then play the 1 Dark Hole, because sometimes Dark Hole can actually be better in this deck, especially if you've got like Ultimate Ancient Gear Giant on board, or if you've got your Wyvern on board, it's searched out your Catapult and you've got Gear Town in play, you can Dark Hole the board, get rid of your Wyvern, and then Ancient Gear into Gear Town. You can also Kaiju Slumber as well. If you want to put Kaijus in a trading engine here to get a bit more consistency, you'd play the level 8 Kaijus, Interrupted Kaiju Slumber as well as the Dark Hole, and then trade-ins to get rid of your level 8s that you don't need. We then of course play the 1 Monster Reborn, staple in pretty much all decks right now. Limit removal, obviously it doesn't affect Chaos Giant Hunter, but can affect most of your others. And then with the new trap card, Cross Dimensional Duel, you actually got a way of saving your monsters on top of that. So speaking of which, we play the 1 Foolish Bearer of Goods, because that combos off with your Ancient Gear Catapult and your new trap, which is Cross Dimension Duels. Artwork is awesome, absolutely love it. But basically what this does is you target 1 Ancient Gear monster you control, banish it. During the next standby phase, return that banished monsters to the field, and if you do, its attack becomes double its original attack until the end of that turn. If 1 or more Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pounds you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. Now, you don't have to play this card. I just quite like this card because you can Foolish Burial it to give you your monsters a bit of protection, or your Ancient Gear Golems protection, but then on top of that, if you activate Limit Removal, do your damage, and then activate that afterwards, you can then banish the monster so it doesn't get destroyed by Limit Removal and bring it back during your opponent's standby phase as a bit more of a 3k defender. But also on top of that, should your opponent target one of your one of your Ancient Gear monsters, you can then, and they're going to destroy it, bounce it, whatever, you can chain this, banish it, get it out of the way so that they've lost a target, and then you bring it back during your standby phase as a double beater. So if you're doing one of your Ancient Gear cards, one of your boss monsters, they're going up to 6k, that can attack and your opponent can't activate spells and traps, so it can put them in a real tight spot. We'll then play the 1 Ancient Gear Reborn, sorry, brain went dead there. Again, can be very, very useful. Searchable off of Wyvern, but of course you can't set it. It's just a continuous Call of the Haunted for Ancient Gears, which is very, very useful and gives them an extra 2k boost. And then, of course, the one Solemn Judgment, because it is a staple in this deck. This deck can go first, This deck can go first. They don't ideally want to because they are a turn 2 deck that can OTK, but when they all get forced to go first, you do play your Judgment. You can take Judgment out if you want to go more solely focused going second, and that's kind of where the Kaiju engine can really, really help this deck, as it can add the consistency of going second a lot more. Right, next up, let's talk about fusions. So, for the fusions, we play triple Ancient Gear Howlitzer. This is your go-to card if you don't have multiple materials to play into. Obviously, your Hunting Hound gets you this with a 1 card, and then obviously it can protect yourself until you get the monsters or the Ancient Gears that you require. We then play 2 Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. This is your boss beater, absolutely dominating, incredibly powerful, and wins you games hands down. We then play the 1 brand new card, Ancient Gear Mechaton Goliath. This basically it requires 3 Ancient Gear monsters, 3300 attack, and it gets to attack as many times as Ancient Gear Golems or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pounds used in its fusion material. When it leaves the field by opponent's card effect or destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you get to special summon an Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is why we get one of those bad boys in there. Now onto the links, we play the 1 Underclock Taker, because if that's not getting you game already, this can definitely get you game, giving you a bit more of a boost to do a bit more piercing or anything like that, and of course being a very, very nice link 1 down. You've then got the 1 Acatic Magician. I just personally like having this in my deck. You can take this out for a Deco Talker if you want, but it's very rare that you would link rather than fusion. But of course, if you do link and you have like Overload Fusion in your hand, you can link, go into a decode, and then Overload Fuse, and then you've pretty much got game. The 1 Mrs. Radiant, because most of your main deck is Earth, and Mrs. Radiant can then give them even more of a boost, so that could be very, very helpful and useful of giving you OTKs and boosting up your board, plus giving you the ability of 2 fusions. If you've got like a Monster Reborn, or you've got Overload and Power Bond, obviously that's a nice 2-card combo. You play Power Bond, fuse the 4 cards you've got, get 1 there, and then play Overload and bring 1 there, so still very, very powerful. For the XYZs, we play the 1 Gear Giant X for the search ability. We play the 1 Tornado Dragon for the back row hate. We play the 1 Baguska because it is the staple stun card in a rank 4 deck. And then we play the 1 number 59 Crooked Cook, because if you've got no other options, this can actually help pop your field spell and your fortress, and it's unaffected while you control no other cards. So obviously the idea is you would nuke it and then protect it and kind of go from there. It's not ideal, but it's still very, very helpful and you know, quite relevant in a deck. And then we play the 1 True King of All Calamities. You very rarely can go into this, but it is quite consistent to go into it should you need to, by getting 2 Reactor Dragons on the board, and then going, cool, I'm going to VFD you, stop you for 2 turns, fill up my extra deck or fill up my graveyard with the ability of going into more of the fusions once VFD is dead or used up its purpose. And VFD is just an incredibly powerful stun card that can cause huge amounts of issue for your opponent to try and deal with and kind of get around with, which is why we play it. I think it's a very, very cool card and very, very useful. If you play Reactor Dragon at 3, of course, its consistency goes up. And the other side of this is when we had Lithogasm, again, it was very, very consistent and very, very powerful for the deck. But we don't, but we can still make it very, very easily and nicely with for Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. Anyway, that is it for the deck profile. I will be doing test hands for this deck just to kind of show you what it can do and how it now interacts and reacts with the new cards. This is just a skeleton basis at this moment in time. I haven't had a chance to fully test it. I've only tested it out online, but it is still incredibly powerful, and the fusion and new support definitely helps it going under the link format. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, guys, as always, happy dueling. Also YouTube, thanks for watching that video. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button. And of course, don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button in the bottom left hand corner and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. We've got more deck profiles, duels, pack openings and many more Yu-Gi-Oh videos coming up for you all year round. So don't forget to stay tuned for all of that. Thanks, and as always guys, happy dueling.